Welcome to the Home Workers Network. I'll just read out our mission statement for the Home Workers Network, which is the show that is all about creating an engaged home workers community that shares best practice and leadership so that together we can grow and develop both ourselves and our businesses. Now, I just want to say hi to our co-hosts, which is Phil Croshaw. Hello, Phil.
Hello, mate.
And my mate, Jenko. Hello, Jenko. How you doing?
Hi, guys. How are we?
All good, all good. Now, today's show is going to be lessons learned from home working. Now, before we go into that, I just wanted to say what a success our pilot show was last week. We've launched a podcast channel, so people can listen to these shows now via the Home Workers Network podcast channel. You can find that on Stitcher if you're an Android user, or on the Apple podcast app if you're an Apple user. Also, don't forget our Facebook page, Home Workers Network, because we'd love to hear from you and love to hear ideas for future shows. And also, if you've got any top tech tips and those types of things, stick them there in the Facebook page. We would really love to hear from you. Now, it was actually Phil's idea to come up with the main topic for today's show, which is lessons learned from home working. Now, I'd like you to just talk to us, Phil. What compelled you to come up with that idea, please?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that the inspiration for it came from a conversation I had about a week ago with a good friend of mine who is, and I get at this quite a lot, I don't know about everybody listening, but he was saying that he was fed up in his job. He's an IT guy. He's fed up with his job and he's thinking about going freelance. And he said to me, but, you know, I'm probably thinking about working from home, but I know you do that. And you've been doing it for a lot of years. What do you think about it? And what have you experienced? And any tips you could give me? And when I thought about it, I realized that probably didn't shut me up for 20 minutes, which isn't the first time. But I was just reeling off all these things that I thought that I had learned and that I thought that I kind of knew now that I certainly didn't know 11 years ago when I started. And that never stops really, especially with technology. And I know we're going to be talking technology today. So that was what the driver was behind it. It just got me thinking. And I thought there's such a wide area of scope of content to discuss and debate and share that it seemed like a good idea to cover that. Do you want me to go on to talk about one of the top things I've learned, Paul, now at this point?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I mean, I think it's safe to say we've all learnt lessons, not just the three of us, but everyone in this room. There's 28 people watching this live now, and I'm pretty sure every single person in this room will have learnt something from working from home. There's all sorts of, not just one thing, probably lots of things. And, I found it. I mean, I've been working from home now since 1999, and it's been a real self-discovery, I think. I've learned things that I never thought I was capable of. So, yeah, absolutely. So if you could go into, Phil, some of the things that you might have learned as a home worker.
Well, there's absolutely loads. But one of the things I started to do recently, which is, not rocket science, but I realized that traveling anywhere at the moment in this day and age, especially if you're in Manchester, is quite difficult because all the roads are blocked and everything else a lot of the time. And I realized now that in terms of experiencing conferences, there's so many really great keynote speeches from all over the world on YouTube.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I've already got Apple TV. And I started to use Apple TV to stream the YouTube conference speeches onto the iPad. Onto the television. I've got a pretty decent sized screen. And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like being in the room, but it was perhaps as close as you possibly can be to being actually in the room. And what I started to do now is I actually allocate time to get some learning and development and get some insights from people through those YouTube processes. But interestingly, because we're learning all the time just from doing this show and talking to each other and planning the show, I was chatting to the guys earlier about it, and Paul was saying to me, there's actually other ways. If you've not got Apple TV, there are other ways you can do that.
cheaper and better, actually.
Yeah,
in a lot of
so it might just be worth you mentioning that now, Paul, on that basis.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I have Apple TV too, and actually Apple are just about to bring out a new Apple TV very shortly, which will be much better and will probably offer, and I will be getting one for sure. I love my Apple TV, but there are a couple of other devices. So there's the Chromecast, and I'm probably stealing Marcus's thunder here because he's the top tech tip guy. But Chromecast is a great device, costs 30 quid, and normally on Boxing Day you can get them they normally reduce them to 18 quid. And it just plugs into the HDMI port of your TV, and basically your iPhone or other device, whether it be Android or iPhone, is the remote control, and the quality is superb. And because it's a Google product and YouTube is a Google product, they just work hand in hand really, really well. So I definitely recommend a Chromecast. There's also a Roku, which is another similar type of device. There's quite a few on the market, actually, but I think my favorite one at the moment is the Chromecast, certainly the best value for money. And when the new Apple TV comes out, I think that's going to be the best device, though.
Yeah, well, that's obviously that's interesting to me. So I've learned from that this morning. I guess I'll leave the other guys to talk about it in any more detail, but obviously the isolation can be a bit of a challenge, and there's things you can do to help that, and the other guys will talk about that. Yeah. Keeping focused is another one, but I'll leave it to the other guys to continue with that train of thought.
Okay, well, welcome, Casa. Thanks for joining us. Now, Casa is in Italy, proving that we are truly an international network. Did you want to add something to the conversation?
Yeah, basically, well, I brought up the conversation about, since first of all, compliments on the show, because I love watching the pilot entry, and I think it's a fantastic idea because there's a lot of people that in today's economy, to get started out, to do those transitions, are looking at a home setting.
Right.
Now, the springboard for me, because in my case right now, I do have an office and I have a company that's been set up, but I started basically from home, and there's that fine line in the questions of why do certain people decide to do a home solution and jump to later a different type of solution, and also mention maybe a hub room, which is starting to pop up everywhere, that were not available 10, 15 years ago. The main question I had is the fine line between family time and home time, which for me was a problem when I first started home, working out from home, and the sort of solutions that you guys might be looking at, and also telling people that what's the best thing to do, the tips on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that. We've got a question from service address, and I forget what his name is. Ian, that's Ian Calvert, about the Chromecast. Yes, it's a great device. So long as you've got a Google account, then you don't need to subscribe to anything. Setting it up is an absolute breeze. I'll definitely get it out the box, because don't let the cost of it fool you. It is state-of-the-art technology, and I'm pretty sure you're going to love it. But thanks for that, Casa. Was there a question there? Yeah.
Basically, it's the thing of how does one, when they start doing working from home, organize their time? Is there do you basically, people go on late into night? I know techie people and programmers, which is the background I have. You just go on to 3 a.m, and then the wife's in the background going I know this is your space and this is your time, but when are you going to have some family time? So that balance between family and work in a home environment.
I think
very good.
If I can answer
Great
that.
question.
Yeah. When we started this and we started talking to people and we said, what is the biggest challenge that you face working from home? And a lot of people turn around and say discipline. And the reason for discipline is that it's far too easy at any stage when you're in your house to pop back downstairs and get back on your computer. And ultimately, why are we doing this? We're doing this, to obviously be successful in our own lives, our personal lives, and our business life. But let's be completely honest. The most important thing should be all of us really is, first of all, our health. and secondly, our families. And we need to find that balance. Now, I know Paul has a bit of a banter and a laugh at me, but every morning now I get up at 6:30 in the morning UK time. I come down. There's a guy called Austin Go who does a blab about, he does Tai Chi and mindfulness and all that. I ensure that every morning now at 7:20 till 8 o'clock, I do Tai Chi with this guy. And you know what? I've never felt so good, and it's only been a space of 2 to 3 weeks. I also then say to myself, right, okay, from the hours of 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, I always go make my wife breakfast in bed. Okay. I then come down, I start work, and I work then through to about 12 o'clock lunchtime. Then I give myself a break. And generally the break, then I'll either go out for my wife for some lunch, or I'll generally go to the gym, and I'll finish around about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
If there is something then I need to do over and above that, I will say to my wife, look, I need to spend 3 hours here, but I'll top and tail that tomorrow. So instead of finishing at 5 o'clock, if I can, then I'll finish at 3 o'clock, and we'll go out and do something, or we'll do something together, or we'll work together. So it's always just trying to find, you need to say to yourself, look, I don't want to be working any more than 40 hours a week. How do I split that out? And then how can I then put quality time with my family, make sure about your own health, make sure that, again, if you're sat at your desk, it's not healthy to sit at your desk 5 hours on. Get up and go out for a walk for 10 minutes. Go out the back and do something. Go make yourself a cup of tea. Go make yourself a cup of coffee and get out. But the key thing to all of it is, and we said this earlier, is consistency. Mm-hmm. You can have all the discipline in the world, but if you're not consistent with it, then you might as well just rip it up and throw it in the bin. So what you're better off doing sometimes as well, and you don't have to be this scripted, is to start with, to get you, because they say it takes 21 days to form a habit, is to get a script up that says Monday, I'm going to work from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock. Then at 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I'm going to go and do this. Then come back at 2 o'clock, I'm going to work till 5 o'clock. So you've got it in front of you so you can try and stay, because eventually you'll probably come away from it. Or, like I do, I actually work more now in that timetable than less. I think it's massively important, because what will happen is you'll start to put exterior pressures on other focuses in your life, whether that's your family, whether that's your health, whether that's your social life. And that will then impact on your own business. And if you can keep the clean lines between, what you're doing and how you're doing it, I think you've got a lot more chance of being successul, not just in your business life, but also in your personal life.
Excellent. Yeah, because in my story, I was home working, consulting for a firm. So between those two things, I was dragging on into the late hours, and my wife was, she came up and said to me, this is not going to work out this way. Yeah. So that was the incentive eventually, when I could put the money away, to go on and say, okay, now I'm going to open an office. We got the work, we got the, we need the programmers. We need to, take the home working solution to the second step. So that's very interesting. Thanks, guys, for, I'm going to step out.
Thanks for your contribution, Casa. It's really appreciated. And again, I'll reiterate, you just prove the true international flavour to our show here. Casa's in Italy. And actually, we've got 30 people in the room now. Could you just type what country you're in and the city you're in the chat, so we can have a look at our audience? And by the way, while you're doing that, thanks, Casa, all the best. And while you're doing that, here's a little video of Jenko doing his Tai Chi in the morning. I've just put that in the chat room. Peter Bambridge is in deep cut, and to answer,
he's done me again. He's done me again.
Stitch up of the week times 2. Peter Bambridge just wanted me to mention about the Chromecast that it also is powered. If your TV has a USB connection in the back, then it self-powers, but it also comes with a cable that you can plug into a normal plug too. So thanks for that, Peter.
We were trying to get Gibran. Gibran, if you're still in the room, if you can take a seat. If not, Guy would like to take a seat. So Gibran, if you can take it, please take it now. Otherwise, we will flip it to Guy to keep the show moving.
Just while we're waiting for him, I think one of the biggest, most difficult paradoxes about the home working thing, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, which of course a lot of us are, is you've got this scenario whereby there is an argument that says, and this is up for debate, but I would suggest that if you're an entrepreneur and you're really trying to grow a business, you have to put a lot more effort and work in and hours in than you might do once you're established. Yeah. This is just, again, for debate. And I think there lies the paradox, because the commitment you need to make that work, and if you're working from home, absolutely does cut across your family challenges. And I've actually interviewed a lot of people who've been very successful in their careers, as part of what I do. And almost without exception, a lot of them have been through divorces. And the main reason they'll tell you they've been through divorces is because they became so focused on their entrepreneurial journey that everything else took a back seat. And there are sacrifices sometimes. So I say it's a paradox because I don't think there's an easy answer. But I would certainly suggest that if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get to where you want to go and, you want to become Branson or whoever else, there's just a certain reality that you're going to have to put the work in and the hours in. And that does cut across family. Sorry, I just wanted to put my penny.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for that, Phil. Welcome, Guy. How are you doing?
Fine. Just a quick comment about the Chromecast and network authentication. If you give it an IP address, regular network setup, it works fine. Works great. Can't say anything bad about it. I like it because it can use the browser. If you want to have a secure network and you use MAC authentication, so you have the MAC address of every device that's on your network in a table that the router looks at and says, is this guy supposed to be on? Can't do it. I've been doing networking since the 90s, and I have not yet cracked that nut. And that's why I was saying in chat, Paul, Mac authentication on the Chromecast, I don't know how to do it. I've tried all the things that Google tells me and everything, and I can't make it go.
Okay, if you stick around, Guy, for the after show, I'll chat to you about that and see if we can resolve that for you.
Very good. Thanks for
okay, fella. My pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. We're now joined by Gibran. Now, we're getting really fantastic audience participation here. It's really wonderful to see. And for those people who are listening to the audio-only podcast afterwards, this is an audience participation show. And we're live streaming this over the internet, and people watching it live can actually join and take part in the show. Welcome, Gibran. How are you, sir?
How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. Whereabouts are you, Gibran?
I'm in London.
You're in London. Yeah. Excellent. And did you have a question?
Yeah. Okay. So just basically some advice on the scenario based and see just get some feedback really. I had a bricks and mortar business. I'm a sort of a skin therapist. So I had a beauty business, which is a shop over in Notting Hill. And, due to just great business, it was working very well, but due to sort of the rise of rents and rates and the council trying to develop the area, my landlord squeezed me out basically in a nutshell. So I left in March and decided to flip the business and turn it into a sort of a mobile beauty business via an app. So in essence, we're doing like Uber for beauty. So we're going to be going to people's homes via the app, which is in development. So my question really is kind of, I'm running it from home at the minute, but one of the things I want to find out is about traction. I'm raising money for the app, obviously, to be finished and built. And it's a case of how do you create traction before you've got a tested product or you've got a product that people can actually use and play with. So I'm moving out of bricks and mortar into the tech world. I now need to show I've got some sort of traction. And it's kind of how do I create that sort of is it questionnaires? Is it sort of developing some sort of prototype? And don't forget, I'm starting from zero again. So I've got to raise angel or friends and family money before I can even get to sort of building the finished app. But all the back end work is done. I've got thousands of clients waiting to use it. I just need to prove or give them something to prove that they would pay for it, and two, it's a great idea, and that evidence I can then go to an angel or VC and go, right guys, I've got 500 names and now I need some money to finish it. So it's kind of moving into that.
Well, I think that social media is a fantastic start.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, that type of thing. But also there's a thing called crowdsource. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Crowdfunder.
Crowdfunder.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're looking at that. Certain types of crowdfunding requires equity and certain requires sort of gifts or sort of bits and pieces after, and maybe, different extra services really. It's a case of, growing the business now out of what's been a home business for like 7 months really after the shop into a real business. Now I've got to go and prove the concept and take it to angels and VCs and say, right, this is what I've done. This is the evidence.
Yeah, Gibran, for me, okay. There's a couple of steps I would look at to build some traction first.
Yeah.
First of all, I help people in startups, and I help people who've got successful businesses. And fundamentally, you have to spend some time actually understanding your why. Okay?
Oh, right, I know my why. Right? Yeah,
you understand your why, and then So for me, there's 4 principles. First of all, are you passionate about what you want to do? Yeah. If you've got a niche, can you create a niche?
Yeah, I've got that.
Are you solving a problem or providing an experience?
Yeah.
And the 5th thing is it scalable?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of points in there. So when you look at that, then you really need to start to say, right, okay, I understand my why. I've got a mission statement. I've got some strong values. I've now got a product that you need to deep dive. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to do some testing, and that testing then needs to go down. So I don't know what your product does, but I would get it out into people's hands and say, look at this. And for me, the question everybody always asks is, do you like it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the wrong way around. All right. Yeah. When you ask your first question, you should always really, really be strong and say, okay, I've provided you with this app now for the last 14 days.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what is your biggest frustration with this app?
Right.
What is the thing that made you go, okay? Because that's the question you need to ask. Once you get the answer to that question, you can then start bucketing people. So people will say this, they'll say that, they'll say this, but there will be a common theme to those people. You can then segment those people and then go back into them with the second question. So you said your biggest frustration was this, okay? Yeah. Now, if I can do that and that and that, would it alleviate it? Or is there something else you're not telling me?
Yeah.
And you can do that through the different buckets that you've created from the first question. When you start to get those buckets and you start to get empirical data, you can then start to develop your product, but also you've now got something, a case study that you can go to these people and say, do you know what? This is my concept. And not only is my concept, I've designed it from the outside in and not the inside out. Okay. Yeah. And because I've designed it from the end user. And just to give you a very quick analogy, you don't think that this Blab Beta is anything apart from a research and development tool about how we're using it, how we're interacting with it, what the improvements that we want and the changes that we want as a consumer base. This is what Blab's all about. This is their beta testing. Then they will use us as guinea pigs and then put together the product that everybody wants. Now, ultimately, you're not going to please everybody all of the time. Yeah. Okay. So there will be some people who won't want it. But like any business, okay, we need to be hitting the middle ground. Because when you talk about this, I always call it, this is my line idea. Okay. This is a line idea. Here is the far left. Here is the far right. Whenever you come up with a concept or an idea, people generally argue the extremities. So they'll say it'll really work or it won't work.
Right.
The truth of the matter is you need to find this piece in the middle, which is the middle ground. Elections and businesses are successful based on winning the middle ground. And you do that through really strong market research that we talked about in the deep dive. So if that's a good bit of advice to you or whatever, you can take that on board. For me, that's what I would be doing.
Go on.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say, just to add to that, I think that's brilliant advice to anybody. Yeah. Just to add to that, as a thought, in terms of tactics, you might be actually on now a particular platform that might help you with getting that engagement and feedback.
Love it. Yeah.
Because if you do a blab and you invite people, and I'm sure the three guys on here would certainly be happy to come in on that, and ask them to debate and discuss and ask them their thoughts and opinions. You can put links to websites. So use it. I think that's how it will probably start being used from a commercial level, is where
Phil,
you get what I'm saying.
Phil, that is an absolute genius. I mean, for me, I found, so women is my demographic, and I've been working with,
and mine.
Yeah.
And I wish it was mine.
I've got the best job in the world. So I've been looking after women, so to speak, for nearly sort of 3 years. So I know where they live. I know what platforms they're on. I know what they eat. I really know my audience. I'm very much in tune to social media. What I want to do is I want to make sure that when I go to these women in Pinterest or Startup Christian, I've come in with really good key questions and key sort of information and data and verifiance, rather than just going and machine gunning. So I want to come strong and say, this, and this. Do you X, Y, and Z rather than go?
Just be very careful, Gibran, because I tell you what happens. Okay, you have to, if you like, take yourself out of it. All right. And the reason why you have to take yourself out of it, because your questions will skew your answers.
Right.
Because the answers that you won't want to hear that it's not very good. You won't want to hear that there's a problem here or there's a problem there. You'll want to say, oh, this is great, it's going to work. So just be very careful. The questions that you ask doesn't skew your answers.
No.
Getting what you want to do. Be absolutely honest and open. And for me, I'm a firm believer in surveying and engagement and everything that goes with that. But you have to please ensure before you do it, you've got your story right. You've got your brand right. You've got your why right. You've got your values right. You've got your mission statement right.
Yeah.
Because if you go to market too soon, it'll skew everything. So just ensure that you've got it's like building a house, isn't it? Your foundation of your house has to be really strong. If that's built on sand, the house is going to fall down. So you build it on really strong foundations, which is your story, your brand, your values, your mission statement, your ethos, your culture, all of those things.
Yeah.
But when you're asking questions, just ask a very simple question. Use the product. You're going to try it for 2 weeks. I'm going to come back to you and just going to ask you one simple question. What was your biggest frustration using this product?
Yeah.
Because the rest of it will fall out of that.
Yeah.
And the key thing is you don't ask any more than 3 or 4 questions, because people turn off and the answers at the end. And the final thing I would say is when you start getting the data, don't take quantity over quality. So if everybody says a one-word answer, it's this. Don't take that as sacrosanct. Look at the ones that have done a really long answer and taken the time to really analyze and look at your product. Okay. Because then they're the people who are passionate about it. They're the people, because it's easy to say, I don't like the color. I don't like the color. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. I didn't like. But actually the people who have taken time to really give you a very, comprehensive answer, they're the ones. So it's always the quality over the quantity in terms of the answers.
I mean,
Gibran, what I'd like to move on now. What I'd like you to do is go on our Facebook page, okay, and stay in touch with us. Stay in touch with Julian, and I would also urge you, as Ian Calvert has just said in the comments, to connect with Marcus, who is going to be on in our top tech tips section.
Still can't say it.
Still can't say it. He's going to our triple T section. He's going to be joining us later. Connect with him, because that guy knows his technology. And
but can I ask something as well, Gibran? Just because this is the first real show, the first one was a pilot. It would be great for us to follow the progress of somebody who's starting at a similar time as the show started.
Right.
Because then, as the show develops, we can then bring you back over a period of time and see how you're developing as well. Because although I've just given you some advice, I bet you there's another 29 people in this room who could probably give you some more advice and probably better advice than what I can. And if they can give you could be our test study, if you like, for the Homeworkers Network First Business on Blab, that we've all come together and turned into a success. So that would be great.
That would be great. That would be so cool.
So, I mean, I've got to give a big shout to Ed, Mr. Goodman there, who I spoke to before Blab, and he's been amazing, and he's been on one of my first Blabs. So, I mean, I think, Ed's been a really good sort of confident and a really good sort of shoulder to sort of, fire lots of questions out. So I want to, Ed Goodman's a really good guy also for advice. I know you guys may have met him or spoke to him. So I think he's another great guy to use, because I think this Blab culture, and there's very key people like yourselves and Ed who are, within the UK, understand certain the UK culture about startups and so forth. And I think it's even, it's such a great thing to be able to sort of bounce off, and because of our connections, freely email each other and speak to each other.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. And make sure you like the Facebook page.
I will do, definitely.
All right, fella. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Gibran.
Cheers.
Best of luck.
If there's anyone else in the audience who wants to take a seat and say hi, feel free. We'd love to hear from you. Now, Phil, had you finished with your? Had you finished?
Yeah. I've got others, but I was passing it over to you guys to continue.
Great. Well, let's move on to Jenko now, because he's got his sort of lessons learned. I think it's a common theme that we had throughout the pilot. and also discussions that we've had on Blab before and offline. And that's around discipline. So over to you, Jenko.
Yeah, just I think I touched upon it with Casa in terms of discipline, but I tell you something that I think small businesses or people working from home, for me anyway, have to be very careful of is sometimes we always trying to make ourselves out as being bigger than what we actually are. And we take on a lot of things and we want to be this big business, but ultimately we're small businesses, and we should, in theory, be using that as an advantage to us. And what I mean by that is that we should all act and provide service like we're a big business, but ultimately we should never pretend to be something that we're not. Okay. So and sometimes when you're a home worker, you may not want to tell somebody you work from home because you think there's a stigma about that. Well, Phil and I were talking this morning, and that if people want to pay extortionate amounts of money to have your products and services because you've got a swanky office in London or you've got a swanky office in Manchester, that's no problem, or wherever it is around the world, they can pay the addition, because ultimately those people, the costs of your set fixed overheads are going to be split into all of the margins and the quotations you put in. So, for me, you should never be worried or sort of concerned about saying you work from home. But on the back of that, it shouldn't then also make you sloppy in terms of the service, or in terms of the way you present yourself, or in terms of the way you set yourself up, or in terms of the way you conduct yourself overall. The perception is really you want to be perceived as being somebody who can operate at the highest level. And that doesn't mean, you need to be somebody from big business. You can do it from your home office. There's no problem at all. But you have to do that in a certain way. And again, we touched upon it then with Gibran, but getting your story right, getting your brand right, getting your how you conduct yourself, providing levels of service, ensuring that your consumer interface is as good at home as what it would be if you were working out of an office. And those are the lessons that I've learned is that when you first start working from home or working for yourself, your brush is always too wide. And you want to pretend to be something that you're not, because you feel that the safety net is you being a big business. But I'm telling you now, and we all know that people don't buy what you sell, they buy why you do it. And if you've got your why on the front page and you can really deliver that across using your strengths of being a small business, of being able to, get the CEO on the phone and not worry about, working from home and everything else. I think that's a massive lesson I've learned, because I think people just worry about working from home and in home office, may put people off. I don't think it does anymore. And there's more and more people doing it. And as we've seen already, there's 92 people who've come through this room today. And I presume a large proportion of those people are part of the home workers network. And I think that's greatly important. So one of the lessons I've learned is be yourself. Ensure that you provide good levels of service. When you build relationships, and it's built around trust and loyalty and reward and all those things. But don't pretend to be something you're not. And just understand that it's good to be a small business that can be successful, and you can deliver as good as anybody else. So the lesson I've learned is don't have too wide a brush, and don't pretend to be something you're not.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Jenko. Absolutely. And, all my clients know that I work from home. They all know I'm home-based. And don't have a problem with it. And as someone put in the comments just a minute ago, that actually working from home means you can be far more cost effective, which actually can give you a competitive edge, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I think so. But I think Ed's got a good point. Ed, if you want to come in and have a chat, but working from home is great for so many, but there's a challenge for isolation for some. And I get that. And you've got to be careful with that as well, because if there is a fix, and the fix may be Blab, and I know there's a lot of people at the moment who are leaving Blab on in the background now rather than a radio or other things, listening to things that's going on, is that you've still got to have that level of discipline, that you don't get dragged into it too much, because you are isolated and you are on your own, and then you're spending a disproportionate amount of time on Blab. So, again, it's looking at those things and how you're doing it. But, Ed, if you're around, we'd love to have you on, my friend.
Yeah, jump in, Ed. Come and say hi.
What I've also found with my clients, because time is in such a massive premium now, and of course I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, I find that my clients are just absolutely delighted that I'm happy to go and see them. They don't want to get on the motorway and travel across town any more than anybody else. So I personally find it a bonus, the fact that I'm prepared. It shows that I'm committed. and it shows that I'm willing to go the extra mile to support them. So it's an actual bonus if you can go and see them, I think, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, because we've done pre-show briefings and debriefings using GoToMeeting. I mean, I that rather than actually get in the car to go and meet a client or them come and meet me, we'll always try and facilitate a meeting online first. And the extra time you buy from that, because you're not productive when you're driving in the car. Half an hour there, half an hour back. That's an hour out of your day. Where if you do your meeting online, and 9 times out of 10 you can achieve just as much online as you can face to face. So that would be one bit of advice that I would give to everybody watching this: is if you can, ask yourself, do I really need to meet with this client? Now, sometimes you need that networking opportunity. Sometimes you need to schmooze them and make them feel a bit special. But other times, they'll appreciate the fact that you've bought them some time. Hello, Ed. Welcome.
Hello, Ed.
Thanks for inviting me in.
No, yeah. Did you have a comment?
Only about working from home.
Sure.
And I totally agree with working from home is great for so many people. I absolutely, wholeheartedly agree with the blab that you guys are doing here. Because one of the things that the mantras that I repeat more than ever is that working for yourself is not working by yourself. They're two entirely different things. And that support you get from your peers through blabs like this is invaluable. And when you start a business, we all have our strengths. We all know what we know. We all know what we don't know. But often we come across surprises because there are some things that we don't know because these things often come up, and as I say, totally unexpected. And working from home does create, for some, but not for all, a challenge of isolation. And also an ability to be able to solve an immediate solution for some, that there are other opportunities. But working from home, and Paul mentioned this when I put it in the comments, is brilliant because it can keep costs down. And certainly when you're a new business, bootstrapping is invaluable, and certainly cash flow for everyone business is imperative. So working from home can help reduce that. And of course, traveling to a space to work isn't always viable. But there are other options out there. There are third spaces. It's not an office or home. There are some others as well. I'm slightly biased because I own a co-working space in Cambridge, but equally as well because I know the people that use it benefit from that interaction that we're all hardwired as human beings to need from others.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's some really good comments and feedback there, Ed. I've been working from home now since 1999.
When you were 4,
excuse me?
I said when you were very young, probably about 10, were you then?
Thank you. I'm 46 now. So not that long ago. Yeah, but yeah, really, really good feedback that, and I think that as I said earlier, working from home by being cost effective, as you said, Ed, does give you a competitive edge if you use it right. Definitely. What do you do, by the way, Ed? What's your business?
So, as I say, I own a couple of co-working spaces in Cambridgeshire, and also mentor and support new businesses of those who work on their own rather than teams of startups. Right. So they're the primary work that I do. Right. And I've worked from home before for quite a few years. And I was kind of in an advantageous position where I wouldn't work from home constantly. There'd be either days I'd be on the road training, or I'd be in the office, which was in London, or I'd be based from home. And I know that there are a lot of people more disciplined than I am and better organized. And I've worked from home, and I've been in that position where I've sat, clear desk, I've got my to-do list, I'm ready, I'm channeled, off we go. I'm just going to go make a sandwich first. And then you come back and you realise, I should have put the washing out. Hang on, I'll just go do that now. And it's 11 o'clock and you realise...
I'm getting distracted.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I came across the concepts of co-working, and where I saw that benefit come from other people. And one prime example of this is a chap who uses our co-working space. He's an accountant. He has decades of experience in accountancy. And a lot of people turn to him because they have an issue that they can source on the internet, but he's there, so they'll ask him. But he was a very new business, and he had no branding for his business. And it's an area that he openly admits he wasn't very skilled at. So when he needed to get business cards done, when he needed to get branding for his website, rather than trying to find it online and answer the people, we as a collective, from the different skills in the room, saw some logos, created some logos, ordered some cards off Moo, and within about 48 hours, he went from no branding to having a pack of business cards. He was like a kid in a sweet shop. And the solution for him is that he would have spent a lot more time doing this at home than he would have done from a co-working space. And yes, using a co-working space isn't free and costs money. And as you and Julian have rightly pointed out, bootstrapping and the benefits of working from home are the cost-effective benefits are there to be seen. But if he's spending a lot more time doing it where he could be doing something else, then maybe actually one is that extra amount of money that he paid means that he got it done quicker. He can now use more time to create greater income. But again, this isn't right for everyone. There's plenty of people I know who want to work from home, who don't want to work in a shared space or don't have a shared space around them. It's just more the fact that there is that is either the home or an office, the traditional office, or that third kind of flexible option.
There are lots of different scenarios, and there's not one size fits all.
Totally, absolutely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ed. Well, listen, thanks for your comments. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you join our Facebook.
I already have joined it some time ago.
Fantastic. Thanks, That's Ed. Really great.
Thanks for letting me in.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Paul, quick one. What's yours? Before we move on? What's the lessons that you've learned from home working?
Okay. Well, the lessons I've learned. Because, like I say, I started working from home in 1999, and the thing is, when you're a one-man band and work from home, it's easy to, get distracted from important things. So, for instance, claiming expenses was something that I didn't do, and the reason being was that I kept losing my receipts. I'm a messy guy. That's the one thing my wife and I argue about is my messiness. Thanks for the little the little bird there with the glasses, the Dici bird. Bit distracting, I've got to say. But anyway, so I wasn't claiming expenses because I could never find the receipts, and I'd end up spending a couple of hours every month hunting high and low for receipts to such a degree that I just stopped doing it. So I decided to start photographing my receipts and uploading them to Dropbox. I've now since moved from Dropbox and using Google Drive. It's a kind of top tech tip, this, I suppose. But now whenever I buy a coffee or make a purchase on the business, the first thing I do, before I even leave the place, if I'm buying it in a retail establishment or whatever, is scan the receipt and upload it to a Dropbox, my Google Drive. And I've set up folders in my Google Drive by month, and those receipts go straight in there. My accountant has access to those, so really, really easy. I've shared the folder with the accountant, and it's something I don't have to worry about anymore, is not claiming my expenses. So that's my lesson learned, is just to get more organised.
Well, you've cut across there. Maybe we could get Marcus in and go straight into the top tech tip.
Yeah, come on in, Marcus. Xero, yes, I use Xero too, Ed. Great cloud-based accountancy package, which maybe might be my top tip.
Come on, he's going to get it right one day. just quickly, Paul, before we go to Marcus, we obviously put the Dici bird up, and I said, please press the number 8 if you think it looks like Paul. We've had a few people who thinks it looks like you, so I think the other people are just too shy.
Thanks for the distraction there, mate. I had to kind of put it in my peripheral vision because it was so distracting.
There's more people pressing it. Can everyone in the room press 8, please?
Hello, Marcus. How are you, fella?
I am good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I'm testing a little extender, and sometimes
well done. Now, Marcus joined us in our pilot show and gave a great top tech tip.
Yay!
And we invited Marcus to become a regular feature of the show, particularly this segment, which he will host from now on. So welcome, Marcus, and thanks for joining us. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. I'm absolutely honoured, as you know, to be a part of the show, and I've been listening intently and trying to make good use of my tech to follow up on this. So firstly, in line with the subject of the show, I am Marcus Boswell. I work with an organisation called ADP. So unlike many of you, I am not yet working for myself, although in some respects I am very much working for myself, because what I see and that I do is I kind of consider my employer to be my biggest client, right? So I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that I'm fulfilling that responsibility to them, in terms of what I get paid to do. As it happens, I've always been sort of a bit of a tech boy, and maybe even an Apple fanboy, if you will. And actually, given where I started in my career with ADP as a, sort of salesman with the kit bag driving up and down the country, my role has changed incredibly in that 7-year period. And it's all been because of that love of tech and being able to communicate that sort of passion with people. So I don't claim to be any kind of guru. And I also put in the tiny caveat that I am very much a Mac person. And I really do hate my PC that's sitting down there looking at me. So much of what I talk about will either be based on the use of the Mac or indeed on the iPhone or iPad. Secondly, I had to say that when you guys invited me to do this, I sat here and I thought to myself, Jesus, what am I going to talk about? I mean, I could probably bang everything out in one show.
Don't do that.
Right. Well, do you know what? I realised just in preparing some notes for this show that there's no danger of that whatsoever, right? Because when I look at the number of apps that I have that I make very good use of every day, just on my iPhone alone, it's incredible. So I'm going to start by just topping your expenses talk shenanigans and helping out a whole bunch of people that I think will also be struggling with this. And my tip for this one, I'm just trying to open up my notes, so you'll forgive me. My tip for this one will be the use of, yes, Concur is definitely a great app. I don't know if you're already familiar with that, Paul, but definitely we switched over to Concur as a business some time ago. And I have to tell you, I was that guy who was sitting in the hotel room at sort of 2 a.m. or whatever it was, knowing that I had roll call the next day and having to try and prepare all of my, all of my expenses for the following day. So I really sympathize with what you were saying on that score. And I found the solution for me was not just Concur, but actually it's much more simple than that. For those of you who are using the iPhone, and it may even be available on the Android solutions too, but it's definitely Scanner Pro. I think we talked about this before. Well, you can see that I've made excellent use of that. Now you can obviously create a list. So I was away at a hotel for the last couple of days as a part of my productivity was kind of, to move myself out of my current environment and stuff. And I definitely recommend that for those who can. Got an awful lot done. But to be able to create a folder based on where you are at that time and just capture all of your receipts with Scanner Pro in that instance. And of course, then use the iPhone technology to just send that straight to Concur. So open in Concur. It immediately sucks that receipt in, so there's nothing for you to do there. And again, using that sort of chain reaction of processes, you can just immediately send that receipt through. So it's totally revolutionized my world and the way that I work in that respect. So I would definitely have to.
Can I just come back on you on the scanner thing? Because I do use that a lot. I use that app an enormous amount. But what I found is by using Google Drive, when you add a file to Google Drive, it gives you the option to take a photo from within the app, from within the folder where you want to send the photo. And by doing it that way, I found that it just cuts out having to open up the Scanner Pro app. Do you know what I mean? The only thing is, though, with Scanner Pro is it does have iCloud support, which is fantastic. So it means that if you lose your device or whatever, you're not going to lose everything, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's important for me to say, I mean, one of the criteria for me having any piece of technology is typically that it happens across all of my devices. So that's very, very important. And I think there's some added extras to the Scanner Pro thing that work very well for me. For example, sending PDFs, all of that kind of stuff. So beyond just capturing receipts, it's got that whole extra side of things. So, but, check it out, see if it works for you. I think that's definitely a good one. Last week, I'm going to try and be mindful of time here, but I've got so many I want to squeeze in and let you know about. So last week I spoke about iThoughts HD, which for me is a tremendous tool for mind mapping. And I actually got in contact with the developer because, unbelievably, would you believe, after me telling you guys about the kind of deal that the following day was going to be like, I think it was like £1 or something. I don't know how many of you took that up, but stupid here actually didn't buy it,
and I couldn't find it.
And so I missed out. Okay, well, I can fix that for you because I was in contact with the developer, Craig, and he very kindly sent me an email which provided me with a code that enabled me to just get access to that for like 20 days.
I'd like to try that. Yeah.
So I will I guess what I'll do is I'll pass on his details directly to you. And I guess if you appeal in the same way that I did, maybe he's already got a mechanism in place for dopies like us who forgot. Which brings me to the next wonderful app. And you guys are going to have to put the brakes on me when you're ready.
Danny, who wants to give us a top tech tip, and Phil and Jenko will be. So yeah, no worries, mate. We've got time.
Cool. Fair enough. Well, I think the next one that's hugely important and probably meets all of our expectations, whether you're an iPhone user or an Android user or whatever, is really to do with scheduling your time. And Phil was talking about that right at the beginning. For me, I use a number of different ways to schedule my time, and I'm starting to get into Trello in a big way, but that's actually not the tip that I wanted to talk about for the time being. This one is much more simple. This one is called Sunrise Calendar.
I
don't know if many of you are familiar, right? It is, and I'm just going to fire off in the notes section there a link to the website there, but when I discovered Sunrise, the thing about this that made it really powerful for me is I also use Evernote, and I can probably dispense with talking about Evernote almost as a top tech tip because most of us have heard of Evernote or in some way perhaps use Evernote. But again, I'll pop a link in there for those who haven't. And, the fact that I can see any reminders or anything that I've set within my Evernote space in my Sunrise calendar is massive. And the same thing goes for Trello. The fact that I can see any reminders that I've set in there that, I'm actually saying on this day I want this to happen, and that all shows up in my calendar is just fantastic in so many different ways. So the thing to understand if you've never come anywhere near this particular tool is that it takes your calendar entries from any of the other calendars that you are using. It can speak to pretty much all of those calendars. So Google is actually my main calendar. And as my wife will attest, if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. Yeah. It's a little mantra in my house. And that helps with that whole thing one of you guys were talking about earlier on. It's really important that, you consider the family in that. And so although it's not a tech tip, this environment that I'm in right now, massage chair and all, is all a part of making sure that I don't bother my family when it comes to this business of, daddy's at work or whatever, because it's not fair on me to be telling everybody else, look, I'm on the phone or whatever, as I said in my comments earlier. So, I'm going to leave you with, I've got so many, but there's two that I really want to talk about. And then I'll probably call it a close because I'm sure.
Yeah, but now I want to keep this show to exactly an hour. So you're going to have to do it as like speed dating.
I'll do one then. I'll do them both. Right, the first one is f.lux. I'm going to put a link in the show notes here for that. And what that will do on your Mac is just phenomenal. You'll thank me for this if you're not already using it. But you know what it's like? You're using your Mac, you're doing it all day. It's really, really bright. Macs are awesome. Come 10 o'clock at night, it's still as bright as it was when you started. Well, what f.lux does is it monitors your sunrise and your sunset. And basically it tails off the brightness of your screen, moving towards almost red. Trust me, it's fantastic. And you'll only know this like 3 weeks from now. Once you put it on, you'll be like, what's all the fuss about? Until you switch it off and you go, oh my God, you just can't believe how much light was in your face before you started using this. So that's definitely one I would say. And the last one,
do it next week.
I'm not going to talk about last
No worries. No, Marcus, thanks so much. Now, Jenko, you're there, aren't you? Hello, sir. Can you give your top tech tip? Well, we're going to have to really speed date this one.
I just want to say, Marcus, absolutely outstanding once again, my friend. You should be doing this for a living. I don't know about anything else. You are definitely the right man for that job. No, just a very quick top tech tip. because I can say it quickly as well, Paul, is that I use, whenever I'm doing, we spoke earlier on about perception and how you get perceived by the outside world. And I think that presentations are key when you're presenting either a proposal or you're doing a conference or a seminar. And although I think there's a place for PowerPoint, there's a place for Keynote, and I know, Marcus, we spoke about this in the other blab the other night, is I'm a big fan of Prezi, Prezi, as a presentation tool. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but when you do get used to it, you can start to deliver your presentations in it, and you can do it via remote screen and everything else as well. It's a fantastic tool. The only thing I would say, like any presentation tool, is that when we start using these things, we use every single transition we possibly can, and we spin in this, spin out that, one word this, one word that. For me, if you are going to use Prezi, it's a very clean and an effective way to present, but just keep it simple. And not too many transitions, because in Prezi, you could feel rather sick with all the spinning in and out. But it's a great product, and it's something I would certainly recommend. And I'll put the link in the bottom.
Thanks for that, Jenko. Nice one.
I think your actual advice on that show was even more powerful, which was to make sure you prepare and prepare again your presentations before you do them, whatever you're using, because ultimately that's the way to do it.
Okay, thanks for that, Jenko. It's a brilliant one. What about you, Phil? Remember, keep it short and sweet.
All right, I'm going to completely change it. Here's a top.
We got him. Come on, you've got to say it. I actually said it quite quickly.
Who came up with that idea?
It was Jenko, wasn't it?
Actually, it's the only person who can say it. Top tech tip. Top
tech tip, which is actually very much related to what we were talking about before about family. And it's actually, there is an off button on every gadget.
Hey.
That's my top tech tip.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And thank you for this one, Julian.
I want to get one of those, actually.
Yeah, trust me. I actually went out of my way to get it because I've been doing these types of things, and it's just a really inconvenient corner where I'm set up in my office that the lighting.
But it really works, doesn't it? It really throws a great light as well.
Okay, now I'll give you my top tech tip. There you go. And it's not a swear word.
What's that say?
It's an Anker charger.
Ah.
Now,
what does that do? What's it called?
Okay. Well, Anker.
I only asked.
So what it does is, very quickly, there's 5 USB slots in there, and they're intelligent chargers, so it knows the ampage of your device. If you're charging an iPad, it will up the charge. I can charge 5 devices at the same time, and that plugs in the back there, plugs in the wall. And as a content creator with lots of different camera equipments and battery chargers and all that sort of stuff, that's invaluable to me. And I will put a link in the...
Yeah, you better had. You'd already cost me money from last time we spoke.
Oh, he got himself a shoulder pod. Look at that. Okay, well...
I have to say, for those of you who are more mobile than that, this is the Power Traveler or the Power Monkey range. You get 5 lights telling you what's going on in terms of how much charge you've got along the top there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But we'll do more. We'll allocate more time for top tech tips. Top tech tips. I think we should call it.
We're just going to change the presenters, not the name.
I think we're going to have to call this the Triple T segment. Now we've only got 2 minutes. We've only got 2 minutes left before we wrap this up. Dan Adams wanted to come in. I don't know if he's still with us. Yeah.
Cheers, Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus.
All the best,
I think Dan Adams wanted to jump in. If not, if there's anyone else who wants to jump in and say hi or ask a question,
Paul,
feel free to do.
Can I just say thank you, everybody, because the comment section today has gone off the scale. We've had lots of people in the seats. What I would say is if you can like us on Facebook and share it, but also the Facebook page, we'll put all the show notes up. But please, this show is going to be guided by you, the people. We're just facilitating. So if you've got a subject or a topic or an agenda you want to speak about next week, please put it in the comment section. We can then use that and we can get it on board. So that's what we want to do. Interaction is greatest.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Julian. Yeah, and also the recording of this will be available on our podcast channel, Homeworkers Network, and also on the YouTube channel by the same name. Now, just before we wrap this up, Dan Adams is joining us. Hi, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hi, Dan. How are you doing?
Hi, guys.
Have you got a top tech tip for us?
Whee!
Well, yeah, it has. I mean, it's to do with one of the a website out there. I run a car hire company that's based in the UK but serves car rental for people picking up in Florida.
Okay.
So a lot of it, when I first started the company, 17 years ago, it was all teletext based back then, no internet or anything like that, and I had to have a call centre full of people actually taking the calls, etc., etc. Gradually, over the time, I've managed to, obviously, you know yourselves, everything's about overhead when you work for yourself. So I cut the staff right down to now just me in a third bedroom, you know. And the problem is the same thing with a lot of members of the public. They're very fearful of smaller companies. They want the large company with the stream of company cars parked out the front, massive offices, etc. So you have to try to create the illusion that you are that size. And a lot of my business is still done over the telephone, but I work with a company called eVoice, and eVoice do a lot of technology for telephony software, and I can actually tailor the system so that people dial a number and it comes through to an automated system. First of all, it says welcome to reservations, or press 1 for this, press 2 for that, etc. And it will still ring on my desk no matter what department they call. However, it still creates that illusion. If I need to pop out for anything, the message will simply say, sorry, all of our agents are currently engaged in other calls, leave a message. And it works so well that people don't necessarily realise that it's just one guy.
Fair enough. So almost like a virtual assistant. Now, we've got a problem with your audio, Dan. So we're going to draw it to a close there. But that's a great top tech tip, a virtual assistant, and there are lots of companies that offer that. And Dan, if you can recommend a company, if you could put the details of that in the comments and on the Facebook page, that would be great in case anybody else wants to take advantage of that. But thanks for your top tech tip. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Paul, just a quick
Cheers,
one
mate.
before we go. It's been, as I said, the involvement and engagement today has been great. If you've enjoyed the show, can you just put a number 8 in the column? If you enjoyed the show, please put a number 8 in the column so we know how many people have done. Are we on the right track? Are we doing the right thing? We talked earlier on about there's lots of 8s in there. And if you didn't like the show, then it was Paul's fault.
Oh, absolutely.
Blame the dog, why don't you? Blame the dog. Well, listen, everybody, I'm going to wrap this up. Now, there will be an after show, so if you are watching this, don't go away. But we're going to go off the record now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Like Jenko said, the engagement has been absolutely incredible during this show. We've had lots of people taking up seats. The comments have been incredible. And we hope that continues on the Facebook page. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Very well done, fellas.
I'm trying to turn the bloody thing off. Pause recording.